Our fifth and final life lesson that we want to share today is your voice sharpens through use.
Mm. One of the reasons why I kind of went on this journey of starting this podcast, I really wanted to be able to articulate the crossroads of emotional health and spiritual health. And it's something that's changed my life. I think a huge part of me feeling like I've been able to return back the road back to my own life, to my own sense of self. The title of this podcast, the very heart of this is that we're in process talking about the process.
Mm-hmm.
By giving myself the permission to just be in the process and to share as I go, I don't think listeners may know that there are so many times that I've felt like I had something to say, but I disqualified myself because I thought, what if I don't know everything about this? And in 5 years from now, I'm going to be like, why would I think that? There's so many things that like 10 years ago, Des would have had a thought. Now I have this thought. I'm like, imagine 10 years from now. And one of the safest experiences in my healing journey is to allow that to be true. I'm like, of course, I probably will 10 years from now look back at this episode and be like, oh, Des, that's cute.
Uh-huh.
And I'm allowed to be right here and start and speak and use my voice, share my story to the ability and the extent that I've sat with it and sat with my heart and sat with the emotions that come up inside of my story. So I love this concept. It feels like it's like a green light concept for me. Just like, go. You're allowed to just start and be in process.
Mm. Do you feel like there's ways that your voice has sharpened over these last 10 months of recording, but even just in the whole process, what ways have you seen your voice sharpen?
I've noticed that I have done a lot of teaching, and there was a lot of ways that I would explain concepts and topics to my clients that I found to be a little bit different in the podcast realm, and learning to grow inside of it. I think the biggest takeaway is self-trust. I trust myself a lot more when I give myself permission to be learning something, to be in the process. That has opened up so much safety inside of me because I don't have to be a novice in order to qualify me to do the thing that my heart wants to do. So if I were to change the course of my life and be like, I'm not going to do my business anymore, I'm going to learn to make flowers. It's the ability to let myself pivot and go on the journey that's going to keep my heart intact, like me connected to myself through all the phases of who I am. So that feels like a big takeaway for me. I'm just okay with myself as I am in process. That's huge, where I've experienced so much self-rejection, self-disqualification. That was my go-to for, 40 years of my life.
Yeah.
So it feels contrasting in that sense and so safe and so supportive.
In some ways, it's like we're healing our own stories out loud.
We are.
As we are walking this process out. And I think there's times and seasons for that. I think there's times where you're walking out your healing process in secret or behind the scenes. And this has definitely felt like a season where we've been invited to engage in the journey out loud. And I love that. I remember I'm similar with you in some of the things that I was wanting to learn. I remember when we were planning the podcast and we're like, we don't know if anybody's going to listen. But
Yeah.
I remember being pretty clear to myself that one of the things I wanted to do with this podcast was learn to communicate concepts and ideas more clearly. I wanted to learn how to take things that I had been working on for years behind the scenes and say them out loud to people and bring truly, it felt like the wisdom of lived experience and healing and paying that price and doing that work. I think there's just a time that comes where it's like, okay, you're ready. It's time for you to pour out what you have. And I know that we talked about it. We're like, we don't know if anybody's going to listen. But for me, it didn't matter. The listener count and the feedback was less important to me than, can I show up? Can I learn how to communicate? And the benefit I had was being the editor. I got to hear what we sounded like uncut. And I would hear myself say things and I'd go, oh, I use that phrase a lot. Oh, that's interesting. Something to
Yeah.
note about how I communicate. That's been a gift for me in the editing process of getting to hear myself and then be able to make tweaks as we've gone through the months. And I actually do think that my communication skills have improved simply through the use of showing up and using my voice every week. I've heard this saying before and I love it. It says, clarity comes from engagement, not thought. And
Ooh.
that has been a big part of our journey here. We could have sat on the sidelines and analyzed starting a podcast for the rest of our lives and never actually pulled a trigger. And I'm the first to confess, I've done that with other dreams before. I've overanalyzed to the point that either the opportunity
Yes.
passed me by or I never took action. But there's something about stepping out and just going, we're going to go. I'm going to learn the communication as I go. I had feedback from somebody earlier this week just saying, wow, I love the way that you're able to communicate these concepts. You're helping me understand things that I haven't been able to understand
Mhm.
because you're communicating them in a simple way that helps me grasp them. And I think, yes, now that is so encouraging to me because it's telling me that the heart and intention with which I started is
Yes.
actually landing for people. And I think that's the goodness of God when you go out on a journey that's a level of faith and a level of obedience and a level of trust. And, you even talking about self-trust, I think we've had to let go of a lot of certainty or control around things because there's a lot of things that we just simply can't control. It's outside our sphere of being able to predict an outcome. I love that you said there's the joy in the journey because I think that's another thing that's fed the longevity and the sustainability for me because I haven't tried to hit a metric. It's not like, oh my goodness, we have to have this many views and this many subscribers and this many 5-star
Mhm.
reviews or feedback. There's something that is organically feeding itself because we're doing
Yeah.
this because it's feeding us.
Yes, I agree, and I think that it's true. We're like, who knows, maybe 2 people will listen, and I think the biggest gift is, like, my husband listens. Shout out, thank you, honey, every week, and that has been huge. I was like, I had no idea that he
Yeah.
would.
Yeah.
And the people who are listening and the things that are landing and the support. Thank you for articulating that. Or I've thought about this many times since you've said it on the podcast. Those types of moments, because we didn't need them in order to prove that we should have started, they feel like
Yes.
such generous little gifts, like little delicious nuggets along the way of like, wow, connection. It's felt like connection. We're connecting with people. Like people are connecting to themselves. People are connecting to their stories and to their heart. There's connection to these transformational things that's impacted us. It's been such a gift. The way we've held it and the way we started and the way we're trying to continue to
Mm,
hold this has been a real gift.
mm, mm. Yeah, there's a value in creating something because of the value for you as the creator and unhooking a large need for external validation or other people to tell me it was good in order to prove that it was worth my while.
Yeah.
It's felt very liberating to do this because it was in our heart. We were responding to the invitation we felt, and there's an intrinsic joy that we're
Mhm.
drawing from the journey itself. And I think that's something that you embody so well, Des. I really feel like that's one
Thanks.
of those things you've wrestled through of like,
For sure.
it's less about the destination and it is all about the journey and who I am becoming in the process of the path.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think again, to know me 20 years ago was not to know that experience. It was very much there was a destination that I was supposed to arrive at, and the anxiety I had that I had missed God and missed that,
Mm,
landmark or shells or yellow arrows of like pointing me. The cost of getting into this place is a lot of letting go and a lot of transformative experiences. So to feast, it feels like, again, this table metaphor, like I get to like feast on it now. In this context, in this container of a podcast, I get to taste it every week while we do this. And yeah, it's been a gift. I think the connection that I have with you has really mattered. That's been a huge growth. I'm like, I feel like we've grown so much in our friendship doing this in a year. And like you said, in hearing feedback from people all over the world, sending me little messages, and of course, my husband, him walking up and just being like, "That was such a good episode." I was like, "This man does not give compliments easily." So I'm like, feel like I won the lotto. So just those types of unexpected things have been
Mm.
beautiful.
The unexpected gifts, I think that's really true. I think there's been a lot of
Mhm.
unexpected gifts, and I think that is a life lesson or life principle. When you take that journey of the heart and you really start stepping out into some of those dreams, here's 2 things that I found to be true. I got support in unexpected places, and then I also there were times I didn't get support from places that I thought I would get support from.
Expected, yes. Mhm.
So there's these unexpected nuggets along the way, and I feel really like I would say surrendered and relaxed in that the people who this is meant for are going to find it. If you're creating something or you have a desire in your heart, sometimes we want the certainty of I want to know how it's all going to work out and I want to know that this is going to happen and these people will support me and this will be here. There's so much that did not turn out the way I thought it would. There's so many things that like haven't turned out the way I thought. But I don't I feel so grateful and so blessed with what we do have. It's like the things that we needed did show up. That's felt what's felt really important. Sometimes what you think you need and what you really need are 2 different things.
Girl, that's a whole word.
Yeah.
That is so true. What you think you need is probably not what you actually need.